private individual who lived in Naples, Italy. You're like, weren't allowed to know who he was, but, that's what. Well, it turns out that there is this guy, and his company has been, and he owns companies, and he has been being involved with not just the Sicilian Mafia, but another outfit that whose name I can't even say. And they're supposed to be, who knows? They're supposed to be bigger than the Sicilian Mafia now. I guess there's 3 or 4 mafia groups in Italy. There's the Sicilian Mafia. There's something called the Camorra that movie was made about. There's something called the Sacra Udita, and there's this other group, Ningrata. It starts with an apostrophe. I mean, it's just weird. And they own the ship. But the question is, if they own the ship, it doesn't matter. Because what they say, well, we own the ship, but we leased it out to this ship management company that runs it for us, a logistics company. And you go to the logistics company and they'll tell you, well, yeah, but we were relying on, on these smaller companies like, radar and space reports. And you never get the guy that owns the company because they're able to do that. They laugh at you or me, okay? Okay, here. I call it my hippie in a Volkswagen camper going through customs at the border test, right? I mean, I used to have a Volkswagen camper. I was some kind of half-assed hippie. And if I had come across the border, say in San Diego, with 20 tons of cocaine stashed,
20 tons
stashed in my, with a couple of joints, okay, they would have seized my Volkswagen pop-top camper. I'd never see it again. But this company that owns a ship that was carrying 20, and it's not the first time, by the way. I mean, there've been a half dozen episodes just this year. This is so out in the open. You know why this is so right in your face? I asked a friend about Barry Seal. I knew a guy out in Newport Beach who worked for CIA or NSA, and he knew Barry Seal. And he explained what the drug business was about to me, pretty much. And he was, pretty straight up. And I went to him one time and I said, "How come I'm able to figure all this stuff out about Barry Seal? I mean, I have documents I can look at, but this stuff, I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer. Why is this so easy to figure out?" And I guess I was expecting him to like give me some praise, like, "Boy, you are just like super smart." But you know what he did? He just like looked off into space, and he said, "Well, it's because they don't bother to hide it." Which, if you think about it, is pretty scary. They don't bother to hide it. So there's nobody looking for it except people like me. I mean, there's nobody when I came down to Venice after 9/11. I mean, 3 days after 9/11, my friend, it was on the news that 3 of the 4 terrorist pilots had learned to fly in Venice, Florida, which immediately, as of that instant, made Venice, Florida, the biggest 9/11 crime scene that hadn't been reduced to rubble. And yet when I got to Venice, Florida 3 months after 9/11, I wasn't having to step over Bob Woodward to get to the bar. Okay? And it wasn't like most of the national press stayed away, but there were a couple guys, one guy in Seattle, one in Cincinnati that came down. No. This was across the board. Across the board. And one of the first things they found when I was down here is that the FBI wasn't, they were supposed to have 4,000 man unit going after whoever did 9/11. No. I mean, I hadn't been here 10 minutes before I talked to a couple people that had known Muhammad Atta, and what the FBI was concerned with was that they didn't say anything. This one nice woman, okay, had lived right next door to Muhammad Atta, across the street from the airport, and the apartments were pretty cheap. So, her husband was a Maytag repairman. A Maytag repairman. It doesn't get any more prosaic in life than that, right?
Yeah.
And she saw Atta with his stripper girlfriend. And I'm not going to go into it now, but like a ton of the stuff that she saw was not what you'd have thought you'd have seen if you'd have seen Muhammad Atta. And a guy from the FBI would come around once a month for the first, almost a year before it became less frequent. And he would say, "You haven't been talking to anybody, are you?" That was what he wanted to know. You haven't talked to anyone. Is that amazing? True story.
Hey, let me ask you a couple questions because we are running out of time. Now,
yeah, well, I hope so.
A couple of things about you mentioned that there was a connection between Jeffrey Epstein and this ship with the 20 pounds of cocaine. We noticed a connection between him and Khashoggi. What can you tell us about all this?
Okay, well, let me just give you the outlines, okay, because it's okay. Jeffrey Epstein was friends with Prince Andrew.
Right.
Okay. This isn't going to prove that any of these people were trafficking cocaine, but what is it going to prove that the people trafficking cocaine were like part of the Jeffrey Epstein social network? Okay, the way the second mate and his seaman buddies that got busted for the 20 tons aren't. Okay, Jeffrey Epstein was close friends with Prince Andrew. Prince Andrew was in a pretty big scandal a few years earlier because he sold a house. He sold his mansion, or I guess he had a bunch of them, but he sold one of them to a billionaire oligarch from Kazakhstan. Okay? And why people were upset with him was because he sold the house for $5 million more than it was worth, which, if you remember, was exactly the same thing our friend Donald Trump had happened to him when he when he bought a mansion in Palm Beach for $40 million and flipped it a year later for almost $100 million.
Yeah, and while you're at it, Trump just visited with Prince Andrew when he was just over there at Buckingham Palace a couple of weeks ago.
So there's that. Now, and the guy, dig this, the guy that blew the whistle on Prince Andrew is another oligarch from Kazakhstan who fell out of favor with the president for life of Kazakhstan and was then promptly accused of embezzling $6 billion from the bank that he was running there. So he got out of town, or wherever town is in Kazakhstan, and moved to London. And then the son-in-law of the president came into town and hung out with him. And while he was there, Prince Andrew bought a house from the son-in-law for way more than it was worth. Now, that, of course, gets the guy that blew the whistle in trouble all over. He knows he's dead meat if he goes back to Kazakhstan, but now he's like toast in London. You don't put a pointing finger at a member of the royal family. I mean, even if it's true. And so he had to leave England and move to France. And here's the interest. And now is where it gets really interesting because when he couldn't go back and steal billions in Kazakhstan anymore, guess what he did? He moved to Russia, and he went to work for a company owned by Oleg Deripaska. That much I can prove.
And describe really quick the connections between Trump and Oleg Deripaska.
You don't have enough time for
We don't have enough time. But we did a previous show.
It's not always the one. Well, I would assume that both Donald. Okay, here's my best guess.
Yeah.
Donald Trump and Oleg Deripaska and Vladimir Putin all work for one guy. They all work for a guy named Semyon Mogilevich,
right,
who runs the Russian mob, and he's supposed to be like, he only talks to God. And it looks like that could, because that's where the money is, right? I mean, the money is in drugs, and how you launder the money is through real estate, and the laws. Trump has gone bankrupt like 5 times. How do you go bankrupt when you own casinos? I mean, it's impossible. So there. I mean, I don't know if they know each other. I don't know if it's that small the world. I mean, he's compartmentalized too.
Yeah.
I mean, Oleg Deripaska. Mark my words. This may never come out. Oleg Deripaska is the Oliver North of Russiagate. Okay, Oleg Deripaska is the guy running around like Oliver North was running around, raising money and laundering it and being involved in drug trafficking. That's who Oleg Deripaska is in Russiagate. That's what he's been doing for 10 years. There's more. There's a lot more, but
we are running out of time. There's a lot more, and people should go back to my Spreaker archives and check out all the shows with me and Daniel Hopsicker, Muhammad Atta and the Flying Circus, Barry and the Boys, all the stuff about
the new book, Gangster Planet.
Gangster Planet. Keep an eye on that.
You like that? You like that title?
I love the title. One last question. One last question before we go, man. The deal is, there's this video out talking about how there's a tail number on Jeffrey Epstein's plane that matches a State Department helicopter tail number. Am I correct? Is that it?
No.
What is it?
Somebody asked me that question, and I just did some research on the N number of the plane, and I told people how anybody can do it. That N number had been used on a plane that the CIA owned.
Right.
Okay. Which was a spotter plane, and then that plane crashed though. I mean, that plane flew into the ground. And then 8 years later, the FAA gave that same N number, to a seemingly innocuous 6-seater Cessna, which isn't big enough to fit a couch.
Mm.
So, there's a lot of. I mean, they could have painted that N number on a helicopter. I'm not saying. What I am saying is that there was no plane, that there was no helicopter with that N number on it.
Okay, so do you see anything nefarious about that, or just a lot of YouTube conspiracy guys over their heads?
Oh, of course. I mean, okay. The last thing, and this explains it. This is what disinformation is?
Right.
Okay. When you're in a helicopter, when you're in a Black Hawk, okay, and you're swooping low over the ground, in the middle of the night, and somebody spots you and shoots a missile at you, do you know what you do? You have a button you push, and confetti comes out.
Right.
Right? Confetti comes out, and the missile doesn't know where to go. And that's what disinformation is. So, I don't, you can never, but you can see it. That's very likely what that is.
My conclusion exactly, Daniel. Thank you so much. But you are the expert on flight numbers and tail numbers and all that kind of stuff. There's no one doing this step of work that Daniel Hopsicker is doing. Check out Barry and the Boys, Muhammad Atta's Flying Circus, the Welcome to Terrorland, the flight schools there in Florida, madcowprod.com. Daniel, what do you want to leave us with in a minute or two?
It was fun to talk to you. I mean, it's always interesting. Not everyone in the world is interested in this stuff. Most people don't care about what's really going on.
Yeah, that's so true. And if they do, they want